The blood in the dust the sun was brutal. It burned the desert with no mercy. The air shimmered with heat. Sandstorms moved in the distance like ghosts. And in the middle of this dead land, a man crawled, his uniform torn, his face covered in sweat and blood. His name was Elias, a human soldier from a crashed ship. His crew was dead. His communicator was broken. And now, a sharp piece of metal was stuck deep in his side. Every breath was pain. Every step was war. He fell to his knees, coughing. Blood dripped from his mouth. His vision blurred. But he kept moving, crawling forward on the hot sand. He didn't know where he was going. He just didn't want to die. Face down in the dirt, high above on a rocky hill, someone watched him. She was not human. She had silver skin that shimmered under the sun. Her long white hair flowed down her back like moonlight. Her eyes glowed a soft violet. She wore desert rags made from cactus fibers and bones. She looked like a ghost, but she was very real. Her name was Selah. She was from the Varari, a desert alien tribe that hated humans. Her people believed humans were destroyers, invaders from the stars who only brought fire and machines. No one was allowed to help a human. It was a law written in blood, but Selah didn't move. She just stared at the dying man below. Something about him was different. He didn't carry weapons. He didn't look like a killer. He looked like someone who had already lost everything. His pain was not fake. It was raw, real. And then he collapsed. Face first. No movement. Selah's chest tightened. She bit her lip. Her heart beat faster. Walk away, she told herself. He's not your problem. But her feet didn't listen. She climbed down the hill quickly, her bare feet silent against the rock. In moments, she was next to him. She rolled him onto his back and gasped. His eyes were half open. His lips were dry and cracked. His skin was pale. He was dying. She reached into her pouch and pulled out a small blue pod water stored from a cactus flower. She poured a few drops into his mouth. His throat moved. He swallowed. Alive. She looked at the wound. It was deep, ugly, bleeding too fast. She didn't have thread. She didn't have bandages, but she had hair. Selah paused. Her hands trembled. Then, with a sharp piece of flint, she cut off several long strands of her white hair. She found a cactus nearby and broke off 2 strong thorns. One by one, with careful hands, she sewed his wound shut using her hair as thread and thorns as needles. The skin resisted. The blood poured. But she kept going. The man groaned and opened his eyes. He looked at her confused, weak. "What are you doing?" he whispered. She didn't answer. She couldn't. Her people had taught her to never speak their language to a human. "Who are you?" he asked again, weaker this time. Still, silence. She finished the last stitch and wiped the blood away with her sleeve. Then she looked into his eyes. "You move, you die," she said quietly. "Stay still." Then she lifted him onto her back and started walking toward a hidden cave, her secret place, where no one would find them. Each step was heavy. His weight slowed her down. But she didn't stop. The sun began to set behind them, painting the Tasima sky with blood-red light. Far in the distance, a scream echoed across the desert. It was not human. Selah froze. She looked over her shoulder. She knew that sound. Hunters, her tribe, they were near. If they saw her carrying a human, they'd kill them both. She looked down at Elias. "I should leave you," she whispered, but her hands held him tighter. She walked faster, Thorn and thread inside. The cave, the air was cool. Shadows moved across the stone walls like spirits. The fire crackled weakly in the corner. Selah had used dried lizard skin and cactus sap to start it. Elias lay on a mat made from thick desert leaves. His chest rose slowly. His wound was stitched, but the skin was still swollen. Fever was setting in. He muttered words in his sleep names, orders, pain. His hand shook. Selah sat beside him, watching. She had never seen a human this close. Their skin was soft. Their blood was dark. Their hearts beat like hers. She reached out and gently touched his forehead. Too hot, she whispered. She pulled a cloth from her pack, dipped it in a bowl of cactus water, and placed it on his head. His skin flinched under the cold touch, but he didn't wake. Suddenly, his hand grabbed her wrist. Where am I? His voice was rough, scared. She didn't pull away. She looked straight at him. You are in the ground of my exile, she sighed. Quiet. You need to rest. Elias blinked. Her voice was soft but not weak. Her eyes burned with warning. He let go of her wrist. Why? Did you help me? He asked, still breathing hard. She didn't answer. He tried to sit up. Pain ripped through his body. He gasped, clutching his side. Blood began to leak from the stitches. Fool, she said sharply, pushing him down again. You will tear it open. She turned and reached for her pack again. From it, she pulled more cactus thorns and a few longer strands of her own hair freshly cut. He stared at them, wide-eyed. You used that to sew me up? Yes, she said flatly. He looked at the hair, the thorns. You didn't have anything else? No. Silence filled the cave. Then Elias laughed. Just a weak, broken laugh. You must hate me for making you do that. She narrowed her eyes. I do not hate you, yet. She leaned over him, her fingers moving fast as she restitched the torn flesh. He bit his tongue to stay quiet. The pain was sharp, but her hands were steady, practiced. Every knot was firm. Every thorn went in clean. You're not just some scavenger, he said through gritted teeth. You've done this before. She paused for a moment, then spoke. My people use thorns for everything. To sow, to hunt, to punish. To punish? Elias asked, eyebrows raised. She said nothing. The fire cracked behind them. Shadows danced again. After a long silence, he asked, What's your name? Selah looked away. Why do you want to know? Because you saved me, he said, voice softer now. I think I should know who I owe my life to. She thought for a moment, then said, Selah. Elias nodded. I'm Elias. Selah gave a small nod back. No smile, no warmth. Just understanding. But outside, a sound broke the quiet. Seshk. Metal scraping on rock. Both of them froze. Selah stood and moved to the entrance of the cave. She pressed her ear to the wall, then whispered, Drones. They are scanning the canyon. Yours? Elias asked. No, she whispered back. Yours. Elias's eyes widened. My people? They found me? No, she said, stepping back inside. If they found you, they would have sent rescue. These are not rescuers. These are hunters. She moved quickly now, pulling a small rock plate from the floor. Beneath it was a hollow just big enough for a body. Get in, she ordered. I can't move, he said. You want to live. Soldier? She snapped out. Elias pushed himself up, biting his tongue. She helped him, one arm around his back. He slid into the space below. She threw an old cloth over him, then covered the floor with the rock plate again. She sat by the fire, pretending to grind herbs. The sound grew louder. SSSSHHKKK. Clank, clank. A light flickered outside the cave. It scanned across the rocks, then stopped at the entrance. A red laser blinked on the wall. Then it moved away. Gone. Selah waited 10 long breaths. Then she pulled the rock plate up. Elias gasped. For air. They almost saw me. Yes, she said. They will come again. He looked up at her. You're risking your life to protect me. She didn't look at him. I did not do it for you, she said quietly. I did it because I don't want to be the kind of person my tribe became. Elias stared at her dot in that moment. He realized something. He wasn't just healing because of her. He was surviving because of who she was becoming. The hunters in the dark, the desert was not silent at night. It breathed. Winds howled through the canyons like whispers from the dead. Sand scraped across stone like claws. Somewhere far off, something screamed a high-pitched wail that didn't sound human or animal. It was worse. Inside the cave, Elias couldn't sleep. Pain burned in his side, but that wasn't what kept him awake. It was fear. The drone that had scanned the cave earlier wasn't just a machine. It was a scout. And if Selah was right, something or someone would come next. He looked at her. She was sitting near the fire, sharpening a thorn knife with steady hands. Her face was calm, but her ears twitched at every sound outside. You're not scared? Elias whispered. Selah didn't answer for a while. Then said, Fear is useful, but it should never lead. Elias gave a weak smile. You sound like a commander. She looked at him, her eyes catching the firelight. I was something once, before exile. He didn't ask more. Not yet. Suddenly her head snapped toward the entrance. New sound. Footsteps. Not machines. Heavier. Slower. Many. She stood and blew out the fire. Darkness swallowed the cave. She moved quickly, her body blending into the shadows like she was. Maid of the night, back on the floor, she ordered. Elias obeyed, wincing as he slid into the hidden hollow. His heart pounded against his ribs like a war drum. She replaced the cover, then sat down in the shadows, completely still. The steps grew louder. Then voices. Alien voices. Rough, harsh, speaking in the Varari tongue. Selah understood every word. The drone found fresh blood here. Human? Possibly. The star sent one who fell. If she is hiding him, she will die with him. Selah gritted her teeth. A large shadow filled the mouth of the cave. A tall Varari warrior stepped inside. His face was hidden by a bone mask. His chest was marked with dark red paint, the color of hunters. Behind him, two more entered. They carried bone spears and shock rods. They were looking for a human. And for her, she stayed low, blending into the wall. One of the hunters sniffed the air. His voice growled, I smell heat and blood. He walked toward the mat where Elias had been lying. Selah's fingers twitched toward her knife. The hunter lifted the mat. Nothing. He kicked it aside. Another hunter walked around the fire pit, inspecting the crushed cactus pods and dried herbs. She's been here, alone maybe, but not for long. The exile is clever, but she bleeds like the rest. Elias lay beneath the rock, barely breathing. Sweat soaked his face. His side throbbed. He bit his lip until it bled, just to stay silent. The third hunter suddenly turned toward the wall, toward the stone. Slab. He stepped closer. Selah moved fast. She threw a small powder pouch at the fire pit. It exploded in a flash of smoke and sparks. The hunters jumped back, coughing. She bolted out of the shadows, slicing one across the arm with her thorn blade. He howled. The second swung at her, but she ducked and rolled behind the rock wall. She grabbed a hanging vine and yanked it. The roof above them, just a loose shelf of stone, collapsed. Dust and rock rained down. The cave shook. Elias heard the chaos above. Cracks opened in the ceiling. His hiding spot filled with dust. He coughed but kept quiet. When the dust settled, the hunters were gone. Selah stood at the edge of the rubble, panting, her blade dripping green blood. One of the hunters had escaped. He ran into the desert, screaming. The others lay buried. She dropped to her knees and ripped open the trapdoor. Elias looked up at her, wide-eyed. You fought them alone? I bought us time, she said, not safety. She pulled him out, her hands shaking now, not from fear. From something deeper, regret. You need to leave, she whispered. Elias grabbed her wrist. I'm not leaving you. You don't understand, she said, almost pleading. You don't know what they'll do to me. Then tell me. She looked at him, and for the first time, she broke. They won't just kill me for helping. You, she said, they'll make it slow. They'll make it a message. He stared at her, jaw tight. Then we run, he said. Together, she shook her head. You can barely walk. Then teach me how to crawl faster. She didn't laugh, but her eyes softened. For the first time, Selah didn't feel like an exile. She felt chosen. Asterisk between enemies and stars. Desert stretched endlessly under the twin moons. One moon was cracked like a broken eye, the other smooth and pale. Together they lit the sand like silver fire. Selah walked ahead, quiet and alert. Elias limped behind her, one hand clutching his side, the other gripping a branch-turned walking stick. Each step burned. But he didn't stop. They had left the cave hours ago, no choice. The surviving hunter would bring the others. The tribe would come in numbers. They couldn't hide anymore. Now they walked the old way through forgotten paths, carved into the rocks by the wind, where even drones got lost. Elias looked up at the sky. Your planet's beautiful, he said, breathing hard. Selah didn't turn around. It kills beauty. Still, he said, smiling weakly. It's not Earth, but it has stars. She paused, turned to him. Do you miss it? She asked. Your world? He shrugged. I don't know, maybe. But Earth never missed me. They stopped by a crooked rock shaped like a jaw. Selah handed him a fruit from her satchel. Round, rough, and purple. Elias sniffed it. Will this kill me? If it does, she said, you'll die with clean insides. He smirked. Bit into. It's surprisingly sweet. It's good. She nodded, sitting beside him. For a while, they just sat there, breathing, listening to the wind. Then Elias asked, You said you were something before exile. What were you? Selah's face changed, not angry, not afraid. Just distant. I was a healer, she said softly, like my mother, until I refused to let a child die. Elias raised an eyebrow. You saved someone? A human child, she said. Wounded in a raid, my people had captured her. I was told to let her bleed, as punishment for her bloodline. I didn't. He looked at her in silence. So they punished you. They called me a traitor, banished me to the dead lands. She ran a hand through her short-cropped hair. Took my name from the records. Elias shook his head. They're fools. Selah looked at him. And your people? They never leave anyone behind? He hesitated, then said, They left me. What happened? My squad was attacked. Ship hit from orbit. They thought I was dead. Or maybe they didn't want to risk saving just one man. Either way, I was disposable. Silence again. Then Selah reached into her pouch, pulled out a small, round stone. Smooth, black, and carved with tiny lines. She placed it in his hand. What's this? He asked. Mapstone, she said. My ancestors used them before machines. It leads to the forgotten temple, deep in the rock sea. No one dares go there. Now? Why? Because it's cursed. Elias stared at it. Then why give it to me? Because curses don't care about humans, she said, standing. And you don't belong in this war. You need a way out. That's your path. He looked up at her. And you? I'll go another way. No, he said, firm. You're not walking alone again. I've walked alone longer than you've been alive, she replied. Doesn't mean you should keep doing it, he shot back. She blinked. That was the first time he raised his voice to her. Not in anger, but in belief. Selah looked at the sky. The stars were shifting slowly but surely. Something was coming. She looked down. At him. "You're strange, human," Elias grinned. "I get that a lot." She turned to leave. "Come on, before the sun kills us." He stood, holding the mapstone close. But his eyes stayed on her, not just her shape, not just her beauty, but her choice. He realized something. She didn't save him because she was weak. She saved him because she was stronger than the world that tried to break her. Fire in her eyes, the sun rose like a blade over the desert. Sharp and merciless. Elias and Selah moved through a canyon, now deep walls on both sides, narrow, hot, and quiet. Too quiet. No wind, no insects, not even birds. Just the crunch of their footsteps and the echo of their breath. Selah stopped. Her fingers brushed the canyon wall. "This is wrong," she whispered. Elias leaned on his walking stick, tired but alert. "What's wrong?" "No tracks, no signs of life. The canyon is too clean." He looked around. "Clean doesn't sound bad." She shook her head. "Clean means someone already cleared it." She dropped to one knee and touched the sand. It was loose, soft, too soft. Her eyes widened. "Run!" But it was already too late. A net shot from the wall, made of glowing fibers. Elias tried to dive but stumbled. It caught his legs, dragging him across the ground. Selah leapt forward, slicing the net with her Thorn blade. Another arrow hit the wall beside her head. The canyon exploded into chaos. From both walls, cloaked figures jumped down. Varari hunters, faces covered in bone masks, weapons humming with energy. There were 5, no 6. And they weren't trying to kill. They were trying to capture. Selah stood in front of Elias, no fear in her face. "Only fire. You'll have to go through me," she said. One of the hunters stepped forward. "You've shamed your blood, Selah. Come back. Let the human die." Elias pulled himself up, barely able to stand. "I'm right here, cowards." The hunter laughed. Bold words for dying meat. Selah threw a smoke pot on the ground. A canyon filled with gray dust. In the confusion, she grabbed Elias and pushed him toward a small crack in the canyon wall. "Go!" she shouted. "There's a tunnel." "What about you?" he yelled. "I'll hold them." "No." She shoved him into the tunnel entrance, then turned around and charged. She moved like lightning, dodging blades, slicing ankles, ducking under strikes. She was 1 against 6, but she moved like 10. Her body was a blur of cloth and silver hair, but they were too many. One of the hunters grabbed her arm. Another struck her back with a shock rod. She cried out, first in pain, then in rage. She spun, stabbed the hunter in the throat, and tore herself free. Elias, watching from inside the tunnel, couldn't stay hidden. He stumbled out. "Selah!" He shouted, and then a blast of red light hit her from behind. She collapsed. Her body hit the ground hard. "No!" Elias screamed. He ran. Didn't care about pain. Didn't care about dying. He dove between 2 hunters, grabbed her body, and dragged her back into the tunnel. Another energy blast scraped the stone just inches from his back. Somehow, they made it inside. The hunters didn't follow. Elias fell beside her, panting, shaking. She wasn't moving. He turned her over. Blood, so much blood. Her back was burned black from the blast. Her face was pale. Her breathing shallow. "Selah. Selah, stay with me. Please," he begged. No response. He tore open his own shirt and pressed the cloth to her wound, but it wasn't enough. He looked around the tunnel. No plants, no herbs, no help. His voice broke. "Don't do this. Don't you die on me." Still no answer. Tears burned his eyes. He hadn't cried in years, not even when his squad died. But now his heart cracked open, and one word escaped his lips. "Selah!" It echoed through the tunnel like thunder. Her Eyes flickered. Say it again, she whispered. He leaned close. Selah, I'm here. I'm not leaving you. She blinked. Pain filled her gaze, but so did something else fire. You idiot, she said, weak but alive. I told you to. Run. And leave you? He said, voice raw. Not a chance. He held her close, her blood on his arms, his tears on her face. The fire in her eyes still burned, but it was fading. He had to find a way to save her, even if it meant walking into hell. Asterisk. When a human cried, Elias stumbled through the dark tunnel, Selah's body cradled in his arms. Her blood soaked into his clothes. Her breath was faint like a dying flame in cold wind. Every step was torture, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. Not now. She saved me, he whispered to himself. Now it's my turn. The tunnel curved downward, twisting like a buried serpent. Strange markings glowed faintly on the wall, symbols from another time. Selah had once told him about this place, the Temple of the Hollow Stars, long ago. Her ancestors had come here to heal, to pray, to speak with ancient machines that could touch the body and the soul. But the machines had fallen silent. The temple was called cursed now. Cursed or not, he had no choice. The path opened into a vast underground chamber. It was bigger than he imagined. Stone pillars carved with alien runes stretched toward a domed ceiling covered in glowing dust. A cracked altar stood in the center. Wrapped in roots and dried vines, at the far end, half buried in rubble, stood a metal throne shaped like a rib cage, humming faintly. Please, Elias whispered, be real. He carried Selah to the throne and laid her gently in it. Her eyes fluttered open. This place, dead long ago. He gripped her hand. Not yet. He turned to the throne. Nothing happened. No lights. No sound. Just silence. He looked around, searching. There were panels, wires, vines crawling across the walls. He tore them back. Found a flat surface like glass. He hit it with his fist. Wake up, he yelled. You healed them before. Do it again. Silence. He slammed his fist again. Nothing. Then he sank to his knees. Please, he whispered. She saved me. She tore her own hair to close my wound. She fought her own kind for me. She bled for me. Don't let her die like this. He looked at her again. Her lips had turned pale blue. Her chest barely moved. I never asked for this. War, he said. I never asked to crash here. I never even believed in your gods. But if they're listening, if anyone is listening, his voice cracked. I don't want to be alone again. And then a tear fell from his eye. It landed on the glass. The panel flickered. One light, then another. Then a hum like a deep breath after a long sleep. The metal throne lit up, glowing. Lines spread from the base, crawling up the walls, pulsing softly like veins. The symbols overhead ignited. The room came alive. Selah's body lifted slightly, held by unseen force. The rib cage-like arms of the throne closed around her. Elias stumbled back, wide-eyed. What's happening? The throne glowed brighter. Her body shone with golden light. Then the light vanished, and the throne opened. She lay there. Still. Then her fingers moved. Her eyes opened. Bright, clear, alive. She sat up, blinking. What? She whispered. Elias rushed forward, dropping to his knees beside her. You're alive. You're okay. She looked at him, then looked at her arms. Her wounds gone. Her skin unburned. Her breath full. The temple had healed her, not because of her blood, not because of her species, but because someone had cried for her. Elias, she said, voice full of wonder. You activated the throne. He shook his head, eyes still wet. No, you did. I just reminded it why it was made. She smiled. For the first time, truly smiled. But their moment didn't last. A Distant boom echoed through the tunnel. The hunters were coming. She stood, stronger than before. Something was different about her. Her hair shimmered like silk spun from stars. The healing had changed her. She walked to him, placed her hand on his chest. "You cried," she said. He nodded. "I didn't know humans could do that," he smirked. "Only for the ones who matter." Her fingers lingered on his chest. Then she looked toward the tunnel. "We're not done yet." "No," he said, picking up her blade. "Now we fight back." Her hair, his armor, they stood side by side in the glowing ruins of the temple. Above them, the ceiling pulsed like a heartbeat, blue veins of light dancing across ancient stone. The machine throne behind them had fallen silent once more, its duty fulfilled. But it left behind a gift. Selah's hair, once soft and silver, now shimmered like threads of living crystal, star silk, a sacred material, once believed to exist only in legend. And it moved. Not like hair moved in wind. It flowed, responding to her emotions, her thoughts. She plucked a few strands, and they shaped themselves, hardening into a mesh-like armor. Elias stepped forward, still limping but determined. "It gave you more than healing." She looked at him. "It gave me a second life." Without hesitation, she began to weave her glowing hair around his chest, over his shoulders, down his arms. It wrapped around him like liquid metal, then hardened lightweight. "But strong. I never wore anything like this," he said. "You've never needed to until now," she replied. A sound echoed through the tunnel. Heavy footsteps. "Many. They're here," Elias whispered. Selah closed her eyes. She didn't feel fear. She felt ready. Outside the temple, the Varari hunters waited. There were a dozen this time, armed with blasters, shock spears, and hatred. At their center stood Varka, the high hunter, tall, scarred, and cruel. "She broke the exile law," he growled. "And she protects a human. We make them examples." He raised his arm. "Burn the cave." But before his soldiers moved, she stepped out. Selah. Alive, glowing, wrapped in threads of starlight. And beside her, Elias, armored in her gift, standing. Tall despite his wounds. Varka's eyes widened. Impossible. The girl was dead. "No," Selah said calmly. "I was reborn," Varka snarled. "This is not your place. You are nothing." She stepped forward, blade in hand. "I am the daughter of Varari. I am the one who bled for mercy. The one your rules could not kill. And this man," she pointed, "to Elias, he showed me more honor than any of you ever did." "Enough!" Varka raised his weapon. "Take them." The hunters charged. Elias didn't hesitate. He rushed forward. Pain forgotten. His star silk armor deflected the first blast. He slammed into one of the hunters, knocking him to the ground. Selah moved like wind slicing with her thorn blade, dodging every strike, her hair flicking like a whip of light. For every strike against them, they answered with twice the fury. 2 against 12. Yet they did not fall, because they weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for each other. Elias saw Selah cornered by 2 spears. He dove in front, taking the shock into his armor. It absorbed the blast, flaring bright. He swung his stick, cracking it across a hunter's mask. Selah turned, grabbed him by the arm, and together they spun, striking like a single beast. 1 by 1, the hunters fell. Groaning. Broken. Retreating. Until only Varka remained. He stepped forward, growling, his spear humming. Selah looked him in the eye. "It's over." "Never," he hissed. "You're filth. You're tainted. No one will follow you." "I don't want followers," she said. "Just freedom." She raised her blade. Varka lunged. Elias threw his body in front of Selah, but this time, she didn't let him. She caught Varka's spear midair with her glowing hair and snapped it in half. Then, with a clean strike, she brought him to his. Mies. Varka looked up at her, breathing hard. They'll come for you. They'll never stop. Let them, she said. She turned away. Elias looked at her, amazed. You didn't kill him. No, she said. Because killing him would mean I've become what they are. They left the canyon together as the sun began to rise. Desert didn't feel like death anymore. It felt like possibility. At the edge of the rock sea. They stopped. Elias looked at her. Where do we go now? She smiled. Wherever we want. He held up the old mapstone. Selah touched his hand gently. We'll find a place where we're not enemies. Not human, not alien. Just us. He looked at her star-woven hair, the armor around his chest, the fire in her eyes, and he knew she didn't just save his life, she became his reason to keep living.